Hello and welcome to Brival Music Theory. I'm Bran and today we are going to be discussing scales. Now, in music we have 7 letters, and these letters are the ones which are used in the scales, and each and every letter has got a tone, or we can say a sound that it produces. We are taking the alphabetical letters from the first to the seventh. We have the first alphabetical letter to be A, the second to be B, the third to be C, the fourth to be D, the fifth to be E, the sixth to be F, and lastly we have G. Now, these letters or these musical letters have got interval or spaces in between them, and they have got very specific sounds which you can play on your keyboard, or you can sing, or when it is notated, you can have a very specific sound. We have A up to B. Moving from A to B, there is an interval that is in between them. That interval is an interval of a tone. And then the interval from B to C will be a semitone. A semitone is a half of the tone. A tone is one, then a semitone is a half of it. Then from C to D, it is going to give us an interval, an interval of a tone. Then we also have D to E being a tone, which is one. E to F also, E to F will be a half a tone, which is a semitone. Then F to G is a tone. So G to A, going from G to A will be a tone as well. If you have the other one being A, we have got, if you move from G to A, will be a tone, which is 1. So all these are going to give us specific sounds and even specific intervals, or the distance between each and every sound or each and every pitch, we call them pitch, that are so specific. How do you understand what is a tone and what is a semitone? Let's look into our keyboard. We have a keyboard, an example of our keyboard here. We have got letters in the keyboard. We have got Y, which are on the whites. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then the pattern repeats itself back to A, etc. So we are going to see how the relation or the space between A and B is on the keyboard. Do we have anything, any key in between those letters? Between A and B, we can see there's a black key here. So if there's a black key, or there's any key in between any of the letters of a musical of any of the musical letter, we call that interval a tone. It is one tone. That interval is 1. So between A to B, we are going to have a tone. So that's the meaning of a tone. Now, when it is not having any, you don't need to skip any of the keys, then that one is a semitone. For example, if we are moving from B to C, that one is going to be a semitone because there's no any other key in between. So that moving from B to C is a semitone. On the white keys, you can go on and see we have got 2 semitones within an octave. An octave is moving from one letter until the repetition of the letter is about 6 tones. So we are going to have from A to B is a tone, B to C is a semitone, there is no letter, C to D is a tone because there is a black key, there's a key here. Then from D to E is a tone, which is having a key in between them. E to F is also a semitone because there's no any key in between. Then F to G is a tone because there's a key here, which is black. Then G to A is a tone, which is a black key. So that's how you need to understand the tones and the semitones. Now, in studying of the scales, we need also to know the accidentals that we are going to use, because there are some modifications that are going to take place in our letters. Now, the first accidentals that we have, these are the ones which are going to alter, or they are going to at least either lower or raise the pitch, which is the letter, by a semitone. So the first accidental that you have is a sharp. Now, a sharp is a sign that is going to, that when you see it, it is going to raise, it raises the pitch by a semitone. A sharp will raise the pitch by a semitone. Now, if you have got A, then you have A sharp. The pitch is on our natural, in our natural A will not sound as A. It will sound a bit higher with a semitone by when you have seen a sharp. When you have seen a flat with a symbol like this, we are going to have that pitch lowered by a semitone. By a half a tone. So if you have got a flat in, if you have seen a flat beside any of the key, any of the pitch, any of the letter, it means that you don't play or you don't sing that letter in its exact. You lower it by a semitone. When you have seen a natural sign will restore whatever was either raised or was lowered by the first, either sharp or flat. It will restore the letter to its original, which was once affected. So we need to have all this in our knowledge. Having known what tone and a semitone means, and having seen the letters, and also having seen the signs of the accidental signs, either sharp, either flat, or a natural sign, we are going to talk of the scales now. And there are two types of scales. The first one is a major scale. And then the second one, which we are going to discuss now, is a minor scale. Now, all these scales are just patterns that are being formed between those letters in your music. So if you are moving from A to B to C to D to E to F, then to G, then back to A, there are some patterns that they are forming. But today, let's see at the first one, which is a major scale, and let's see what pattern do they form. Major scale. Now, if you come to realize, and when you look into this, our keyboard, let me bring the keyboard. Now, a major scale will form a pattern that is sounding something that is so familiar unto us, which we can use the solfa tones like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Such a pattern is forming a major scale, and there are patterns in between that are going to make them, that you can make that scale starting from A, you can start it from B, you can start it from C, or any other letters. So that pattern is what makes a major scale. Now let's see what does the pattern show us. When you are moving from the scale of C, or when you are having a C, let's start into a natural scale, natural major scale. Now, a natural major scale is where you don't have to use any of the sharps or any of the flats, or we can say it is in natural form. It's a scale that is going to form the natural major scale without using any of the sharp or any of the flats. So, if from the studies or from the experience in music, we can see that if you start your scale from C, then you go to D, then you go to E, F, G, A, B, then back to C. we are going to form a given pattern that is going to give us, when you move the sound, this one is going to sound like do, then this one is going to sound like re, this is going to sound like mi, then this F is going to sound like fa, G is going to sound like so, A is going to sound like la, B is going to sound like T, then C again is going to sound like do, but on an upper octave. So this pattern is going to give us a do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, without us altering any of the letters in between, starting from C. So we are going to have, now this is going to give us the pattern which is formed in the major scale. Now, from the theory, from the music theory, the pattern that is formed in the major scale is that we are going to use things called tetrachord. Tetrachord. Now, we can see tetra, it means 4, groups of 4, and chord means a combination of notes. So when you move from C, then you go to D, then you go to E, then you go to F, you are going to have 4 notes. That's going to be our first 4 notes. Then if you go from G to A to B to C, they are our last 4 notes. So let's divide. Let's split our scale into 2. Then let's see the pattern which we formed. Now, when you move from C to D, we learned from the keyboard that C to D is a tone, which is 1. C to D is a tone. D to E is a tone as well. E to F for you to move from E to F, you are not supposed to skip any of the keys. So it is a semitone, which is a half. Now let's see the pattern on the next. The pattern of the next, we have got G to A is a tone. A to B, you also have to skip, which is a tone. B to C, you don't have to skip, which is a semitone. So you can see the pattern is having, in the first 4 notes, we have got a tone, and a semitone. Then in the next 4 notes, we also have a tone, and a semitone. So this is going to give you a pattern that is going to sound do, re, mi, fa. Then the other one is going to sol, la, ti, do. Then, to your surprise, we can not to your surprise, but you can see from F to G, we have got a tone, which is normally a tone. You must have at least to skip a key for you to move from F to G. So we can say that this is our first grouping of 4 notes. Then we have got the second grouping of 4 notes. If we group them like that, we can say the first grouping of 4 notes is the first tetrachord. Then this one is the second tetrachord. Now, from this pattern, we can see that do, re, mi, fa has got the same pattern, exactly the same pattern as sol, la, ti, do. So this is what makes this scale to be a major scale, a scale which is having a specific pattern of 2 tetrachords. So these 2 tetrachords, you can move them from C. You can do those patterns in any of the key as you move, and that one is your major scale. So, and that one is your major scale.